ladies and gentlemen, we are going to get rolling with the second half of our day today. It's going to be a great time. We have an amazing friend joining us, the founder of Mehen Innovations, bringing some much needed developments in the ecosystem of stablecoins to Cardano. It's a great opportunity. On behalf of the NYC community, let's give a warm welcome to Matt Plomin, founder of Mehen.
Thank you, dudes. Wow, this guy, he's the ultimate hype man. I absolutely love him. Yeah, like I said, I'm Matt Plomin. I founded Mehen Innovations. I'm one of the co-founders on the team, along with our CFO, Stephen Fisher, who is a stable operator and hell of a builder. So I want to just give you through like a little concept of what Mehen's been doing, what we're building. We're, spoiler alert, we're building a stablecoin, and it's going to be Cardano first, but we'll also then extend to other UTXO style blockchains. So we're looking at Ergo, we're looking at other UTXO big chains that we'll not like to say yet, but we'll go through the presentation briefly here. Stablecoins are an interesting place in that they intersect between the fiat world and the crypto world. And to that end, right now there's 125 billion, but over the next couple of years, it's supposed to 20x, according to a recent Forbes article, to be over 2.8 trillion in total value locked or assets under management or assets in stablecoins globally. So it's really an area that is necessary for the adoption of most blockchains. And I know that on Cardano there isn't a fiat-backed stablecoin yet, but we're expecting to have one here in about 6 to 8 weeks. So there's no real stable store of value. The stablecoins that exist on Cardano right now are either collateralized deposition style or they're JED, which is sort of it's not Terra Luna, but it's kind of crypto native all the way down. There's a subordinate coin, there's a smart contract that controls the minting and burning. So it's an interesting design, but it certainly is not scalable. The projects that trade on Cardano in the DEXs generally trade their project token versus ADA rather than versus stablecoin. So we see, if you sort of break apart the risks of the project, half the risk of the project is in the adoption of the Cardano blockchain. If you also trade your token against that token, then you're kind of quadrupling your risk. So you don't necessarily want to do that. You always look at some of the other marketplaces that exist for native assets and project tokens. You see they've always traded against USDT, USDC, and that helps you to understand the risk of the project versus the risk of the blockchain the project is trading on. So we want to separate that out. And really, if you can get a stablecoin that has scalable architecture, a stablecoin that can hold its value true, you can really tap a lot of untapped potential in DeFi. So the USDM solution, it's a fully reserved, transparent, audited fiat-backed stablecoin. Every day, we have the Charlie 3 Oracle taking a feed from our reserve account and publishing it on chain. So you will definitely know from an independent third party how much is in the reserve every day. The token is a Cardano native token, so it will be built on the Cardano native token standard, and it is smart contract controlled in that the minting and burning happen with reference to a smart contract. So when you mint the token, the smart contract checks the independent reserve verification, and if there's not enough reserves, then the token can't be minted. So there's no over-minting, there's no, oh, is this thing really backed? You have transparency, you have independent verification, and you have smart contract control, which really fills the last mile that you would expect USDT and USDC, the large stablecoins on Ethereum, to go and fill, but they would rather control everything themselves rather than have an independent party and decentralize the process of the law. We're building on a regulated path that's been traveled by others. We're familiar with the regulation that the existing fiat-backed stablecoins have been following. We're following a similar path, and it seems to have worked well for them. And so we're finding there's some success. We've engaged with state regulators in all 50 states. We've engaged with federal regulators, and we've had approval to operate in quite a few of those states already, even before we've launched them. So that's an encouraging development. So a couple things about the token. as with most stablecoins, there's no asset mismatch. So every USDM is backed 1-for-1 with $1 in USDM reserve. The trading hours, of course, you can trade crypto 24/7, 365, and there's no difference with USDM. You can trade USDM peer-to-peer at a decentralized blockchain like Cardano at all times. And there's no liquidity gap. So it can be traded on-chain, or it can be traded with Mehen. You can redeem it for $1 whenever you choose. The competitors, again, you have Tether, so everybody knows who makes USDT and USDC. Tether is the third largest cryptocurrency with nearly 70% of the stablecoin market. Circle's got 20% market share, 10% of share between about 100 other players. Tether has all kinds of trouble with the regulators. They're under constant investigation because they don't have transparent reserves. They don't do necessarily very good control about sanctions compliance or OFAC or any of the others. And their reserves are very secretive. They're very secretive about what exactly it is. There was a time when Tether claimed to have tens of billions of commercial paper, when in reality that would have made Tether the largest holder of commercial paper on the globe. And everybody that trades in the commercial paper markets, it's a very small market, they all talk to each other. Everybody knew that was fake. And so they ended up getting a $40 million settlement for the state of New York, and now they have to disclose their reserves, but even then we don't know that it's actually true, and we also can't do business in New York. So there's a lot happening with Tether that I don't know that it should deserve to be the third largest crypto market cap with nearly 70% of the market share. The advantages for Mehen, we're first to market for this. We have daily third-party reserve verification. We are licensed and regulated. We have nearly 50% of the U.S. population is going to be available to mint USDM on launch. We've had approval from 13 states right now. We expect to be up to 18 to 20 states, including large ones like California, Pennsylvania, Virginia, Massachusetts, Rhode Island maybe, Tennessee maybe, Florida maybe. We have a lot of good footprint for minting USDM. And also because we have been working with regulators to have them understand our process, we may selectively choose to operate with individuals outside of the U.S. So there will be opportunities for folks who are outside of the U.S. to do USDM as well. Again, we have to be a little selective about that, but that's an encouraging development that we've had recently. We can skip to the team. So to me and Steve, it's my wife Jillian is the CEO. She controls the purse. She makes sure we don't spend the money on silly things. Chris, the CFO, has a large history in TradFi. He used to work with me in Deutsche Bank 10 years ago. And Jim Manager, Blockjock, Eddie Demore is our Chief Compliance Officer. Matt Tristan, Matt Nash, both former MELD refugees. Alex Schwartz, who is the Pyro, and Sean Kelly, also state pool operator. So we're not from the community. We're not strangers coming into Cardano trying to pitch our wares. We are of the community trying to do something that helps the blockchain expand its footprint and expand its appeal to people who currently aren't on Cardano. The path that we've taken, in June 2022, we founded the companies. There's a couple companies that work together. Mehen Innovations is the software company. Mehen Finance is the stablecoin issuer. So Mehen Finance holds all the licenses. And is licensing, licenses the software for Mehen Innovations. So it's an interesting partnership that helps to clear a few regulatory rules. We have been accepted from FinCEN as a money service business, and we have secured banking partners. We did the first decentralized Oracle controlled mint live on testnet back in July, and we expect to be live on testnet for user testing in November. We're hoping to start showing some people at the summit what the platform looks like, and the guys are working hard this weekend to make that happen. We are also announcing at the summit, we'll announce a little pre for you guys here, that Mehen is going to be working through a regulation called Regulation CF. It was passed during the Obama administration to allow individual investors to invest in pre-IPO companies that would normally be only available to accredited investors. There's a limit. Individuals can only invest $5,000 a piece, and the company can only raise $5 million. But we're going through the process of filing an SEC registration and getting this investment available for the individuals that are in the community that want to help, not only help support and fund Mehen's early growth, but also participate in the upside with a real, true, legally enforceable investment product. In this, and there's also there's no token pump, there's no token dump, there's no insider allocation that's going to come suck up the liquidity pool. There's none of that stuff that you would normally worry about with a crypto investor. We're going to do things by the book and try to be as transparent and forthright as possible. In December, we're going to launch. We will announce the exact date at the summit. And if you're not signed up for our newsletter, you'll probably drop a newsletter at about the same time as we announce at the summit. So the date will be known later this week. We have been approved in 13 states. We're pending in 9 more, so it might be up to 22. Some of those that are pending might say no right away. We have to file some more paperwork, but we are definitely good for 13. And if I was a gambling man, I'd say we'd be good for 18. It was 22. And internationally. So it's going to be a great launch. We have a lot of interested investors who want to not only invest in the company, but also mint the USDM token for their own use through DeFi applications. Some people invest for specifics. So here is our actual state-by-state breakout of Wave 0 states that are going to be achieved before launch. So California, Washington, Colorado, Delaware, Kansas, Massachusetts, Missouri, Montana, North Dakota, Pennsylvania, Utah, Virginia, Wisconsin, and Wyoming. Florida, Connecticut, Illinois, Indiana, New Hampshire, Rhode Island, South Carolina, Tennessee, and West Virginia are still pending. We have open communications with the regulators at the state banking agencies and state financial authorities in those states. We're hoping to get word back from them before mid-December launch. The next states that we're going to need to launch in are the second group: Alabama, Arizona, DC, not a state, it still needs to be. Georgia, Idaho, Iowa, Maine, Maryland, Mississippi, Nebraska, Nevada, New Jersey, North Carolina, Oregon, South Dakota, U.S. Virgin Islands, Vermont, and Washington. Those we expect to achieve within 3 months of launch. So that's kind of call it early Q1, mid-late Q1 of 2024. And it's within 6 months post-launch, we have engagement with Alaska, Arkansas, Louisiana, Michigan, Minnesota, New Mexico, Oklahoma, and Texas. Some of those states take a little longer. Texas is notoriously long process of application, so we don't expect that that really right away. But we're also working with the Irish Central Bank and with the institution, the payment institution regulator in Singapore, to get a European EMI and a Singapore payments institution license. So with this licensing stack, we can essentially be an entirely transparent, legally sound operating entity for what would be considered the on-ramp and the off-ramp for banking in Cardano. So I know that there's been a lot of opinion made about some projects that launched or didn't launch on Cardano that sought these licenses, but we are actually going to achieve them with active engagement. We've had, most recently I had an email from the Irish Central Bank on Thursday, so it's active dialogue with each of these regulators. And then finally, the last, hardest to get, most onerous states, Hawaii and New York are notorious state hospitals for crypto ventures. Kentucky, Ohio, and Puerto Rico, their barrier is very high to adopt. I think you have to have millions of dollars in the bank. So we hope to get there, but that's going to be sort of these are the last states to achieve. The plan then kind of beyond. So why are we getting all these licenses? Where are we going through a regulated path? We expect in Q1 of 24 to launch a broker-dealer, SEC registered broker-dealer, that can tokenize equity, do IPOs, do debt offerings, and do crowdfunding, like a Reg CF offering. We'll call that one Mavi Kai. Mavi is the Turkish word for blue. Kai is Japanese word for ocean, so Mavi Kai brokerage. Shortly after Mavi Kai will be Mavi Kai Markets. We'll need to have our own walled garden exchange to trade these securitized tokenized equities, and so there'll need to be its own exchange. That unfortunately won't be able to launch on DEXs, but we'll be able to launch certainly on chain. Q3 24, we're looking at integrations with Visa and MasterCard. to get actual start capability enabled for Mehen, for the USDM coin. And this is kind of tentative. There's a great project on an unknown Cardano called Drip Drops. Drip Drops is working to build a company called Main Street. Main Street is supposed to be a payments terminal for individuals to use crypto, use fiat-backed stablecoins at the register. So it would actually enable that last mile adoption where you can go from your blockchain wallet into a cash register and then have the business accept fiat, and they don't take care of the conversion of fiat. So it's a great onboarding tool, and I hope that Main Street gets a lot of love. If Main Street is able to launch, we don't see the need to go into this Visa MasterCard deal, but we certainly want to have it on our roadmap in case they encounter any struggles. So we want to have a lot of redundancy in the system anyway. And in late 24, we can move into identity solutions, we can move into DID, we can move into these other applications. I think there would be a lot of call for treasury management solutions, for accounting solutions, for payments integration, for payroll, for HR systems. So when you think about what it takes to run a business, a full stack business on chain, we want to be able to be a provider for that. But I think the last thing we want to do, again, speaking to Main Street's aspirations, the last thing we want to do is compete with the community for any community-built solutions that should do the same thing. So we want to make sure that USDM is a highly composable, highly buildable platform. And if you have plans to make any of the things that are on our roadmap, engage with us and have us help you to integrate USDM into your project, because it's really going to be, we all win if one of us wins. So we don't need to build everything, we want to make sure that everything's available for the community. And then 2025 and beyond, talk about other chains, we talk about other products, other services. There's certainly the opportunity to head into a bunch of different directions. So we'll really let the imagination as far as to where we're going to go after 2024. We've had a lot of good relationships. We're a member of Plaid, we're a member of AWS Activate, our bank FV, we were funded by Project Catalyst. Thank you to the community. Very grateful. We have Richard Vincent. We've actually worked with Charlie Free to do reserves verification. We've worked with Zerberus, which is a project that tracks token flow on chain. So if you wanted to imagine that we get some kind of notice that this user is, a bad user, a bad actor, we'll be able to track the token flows through that person's wallet and publish the affiliate wallets to that person's maybe co-conspirators, maybe somebody is an unwitting victim in this thing. So we want to make sure the Zerberus is there to highlight any sort of bad actors in the ecosystem and help to secure the blockchain even more. And finally, come and get the newsletter, bit.ly/newsletter. The website's mehen.io and Twitter's made official. So we'd love to have you follow us. We'd love to sign up for the updates. It's not a monthly newsletter. The October newsletter should go out in the next couple days, and then we'll get you some details first thing when we announce the launch date. Thank you.
We have some questions from the audience. Anyone over there have questions you have?
I have a question.
Hey, Jade.
Okay. So I see you have North Carolina on the fence, and that's where I'm from. So my question is there anything we can do to help you get this passed?
I appreciate that. I don't think so. Let me see. I wrote down a note the other day.
Any writing or representative, nothing like that is going to help us.
No, I'm working with North Carolina. Is in wave one. So that what we have we have a license application pending. The way these things work is you go and you submit all of your things. So you submit your KYC policy, you submit your bank accounts, you submit your HR policy. They do FBI background checks on the staff. They do credit checks. They check the veracity of all your information with your net worth and if you have a test that they make on your company. And then it's like hardworking people there at the State House that they have made careers of this, and they do a good job of analyzing these companies to see if they fit within the licensing regime of the state. So I don't know that they would appreciate it if you call up some state senator and the state senator doesn't knock on the door of the financial services division, because I just think that's probably an overreach. We haven't heard no. We've heard follow the process. And
What about from the states that said no?
they haven't said no.
No, the states that have said no.
None of the states have said no.
Everybody's like, the ones that are on the fence are just on the fence. Like
Yeah.
New York, for example.
All right. Well, New York, we haven't put our application in for New York. New
Just
York
because of, yeah.
like,
So are you trying to basically get this first, and then with this, go to this other hostile, entities and say, hey, this is how we've done so far? Is that what, kind of like,
yeah, I mean, what you'll see really is this is the path that every fintech startup takes. Every fintech startup, from PayPal to Twitter's trying to do one, or X is trying to do one right now, where they're going through the process of getting a fintech startup. And they just go to every single state and they talk with the regulators and they say, is what we're doing subject to regulation in your state? What do you think? And they say, yeah, it's subject to regulation, follow the normal path. And they say, no, it's not subject to regulation. You don't have to file anything. Or if you file an application, it doesn't fall within our boundaries, so we can't approve it. So there's a whole bunch of different responses you can get from the state. And what they've said, generally speaking, is either, yeah, this is fine, you can go do this right away. Or they say, file an application, pay the fee, send us your information, and we'll see. And generally speaking, if you have the qualifications, right? If you've proven yourself to be a competent operator in the space, if you're doing KYC according to proper standards, if you have the financial means, and if you have really no criminals or anything on your payroll, then you end up going through the process pretty easily. There might be some back and forth as you go through it with the individual state, because they want more details on this and more details on that. And those are the kinds of things that you go through as the process unfolds, which is why we say 3 to 6 months or so in some of these states, because that's just what they do. They take the lead time.
I have another question, not really into that, but, so I talked to a lot of people, that, but there's a lot of people that, when I talk to them about stablecoins and, talk about Mehen and all these other stablecoin ventures, there's this, kind of idea that it's only made for people that trade. And those are the only people that are going to benefit from this. Why can't you say to the wider community, why do we need a stablecoin in Cardano as a whole? What does that represent to us as a network?
I'd say 3 things. The first thing is it makes you look a lot more like a mature chain. We have a lot of TVL. We have a lot of users. We have a good market cap for ADA. And those are important things as proxies for adoption. But I think if you have a fiat-backed stablecoin, if you have a way to send payments to each other that's in a way that's not ADA, if you have a way to take those dollars and transfer them to your friend, then have your friend take it off the blockchain into their bank account without using a centralized exchange or setting up an account to Coinbase or Finance or KuCoin or any of the others, and I think that really helps say to the community that we've really left. The second thing is, imagine Cardano wants to be the payments rails for the world, and we want to settle payments using Cardano. And maybe you have to do a L2 for scalability. Maybe you have to do Hydra. Maybe you have to do a number of other things to make it work on the type of transaction volumes that you need. But it would open up an entire world of the ability to trade JPEGs versus dollars, trade DeFi applications versus dollars, trade, do bonds, there's a lot of DeFi applications for a stablecoin. I think it's probably a common use case. But it's also great to be able to pay your staff if they live somewhere in the world in a currency that's not ADA. Maybe they don't want to hold the volatility of ADA. Maybe they want to hold the dollar instead, which the volatility of the dollar is what it is. it's a little better than I think some of the cryptocurrencies out there.
Is that understood?
Yeah, I don't think everyone will want to do that. I think it supports ecosystems. I think that, so imagine that I think that if you look at what happens, like IOG and Cardano Foundation are building Cardano itself. They're building the community, they're helping to fund events like this, and they're building the L1 chain, they're building additional functionality within the Cardano core. But you need to have people that are building on Cardano. So we're taking a viable financial product, we're taking a bank deposit, it's going to generate interest, we're putting it on Cardano, and then Mehen will earn that interest. And then we will pass that interest on to further development of Cardano. So we're building the more sustainable businesses that you can build on the blockchain. Like Book.io is a great sustainable business that is generating its own revenue, it has its own profitability. It's got a product that is definitely desired by not only NFT degens, but readers and authors and content creators from different platforms. So you can go through the more projects that build actual businesses on the chain, they actually bring value to the chain rather than taking value from the chain. I think a lot of times you see enterprises that come along and they take value from the chain instead of building sustainable businesses that get its revenue from other places. So Mehen's revenue is coming from other places. It's coming from interest on reserves. It's coming from transactions that are happening. If we make this payment system, merchants will pay transaction fees that then go into the Cardano ecosystem. So you need to find companies that build businesses that don't just take your ADA and then pass it around among each other, but they take value from places that are not Cardano and bring it into the community. And that's really how we're going to get this thing to grow in a very positive direction.
Yeah.
I have some questions for you. Can I hop on the screen of the show? If anyone else has questions too, feel free to raise your hand. So we talked about your project, I think back in March. March or is it last year? Time is that's confusing. Back then, we were wondering how Mehen works with all other stablecoins on Cardano. I know IOG just recently announced they hired 2 people for another stablecoin project on Cardano. I don't know if you have details on that, if you're not allowed to say anything about that, but how are you fitting in to the ecosystem where there's multiple Cardano stablecoins?
We have a niche. We have the fiat-backed stablecoin thing, and there aren't any others. So there's some that could bridge over from one chain and from USDC, USDT, but there's still this kind of bridge risk as well, the locking on the Ethereum side risk. But I think that you might see some of these. I don't know. We've been active with IOG on the Wyoming Stablecoin initiative. We've had engagement with senior leadership over there, and we've put in requests to the state of Wyoming so that we could do that. I think that without getting too deep into whatever's happening within IOG, I would think that some of the efforts that you might see out of IOG would involve other chains. And so they're building Midnight, which is going to be a different chain, but it might be interactive with Cardano. And they're going to build a stablecoin that you might see as a little different from Cardano. Maybe it would be across multiple other chains as well. So it's interesting to see how IOG, and I asked a question of Frederick Gerard earlier, is Cardano Foundation going to step up and sort of lead the community building in a place where it used to be IOG taking the lead on that? I think you're going to see that. You're going to see, I hope you see IOG build more of Cardano. I might see IOG build more on Cardano and on kind of Cardano adjacent projects. And so IOG is a lot bigger than just Cardano. They've got a lot going on. It needs to be recognized. They're a very productive shop, and they've got a lot of efforts that they have. The Edinburgh Decentralization Index is very important. The work they're doing with Edinburgh is important, and some of it's groundbreaking. If you look at some of the designs for CBDCs that have come out of that effort, some of them look very interesting, privacy preserving, A lot of complicated blockchain engineering, but I think that it's one of those things you have to be excited about because everybody benefits if IOG benefits, everybody benefits if they're able to build something that brings more value to the product. So we'll be meeting with them after the summit, and we'd love to engage whatever efforts they have. We will go to other chains, but we will also be priority first, and so we want to make sure that that's clear.
Anyone from the audience want a follow-up question?
Yeah,
Please, yeah.
Yep, okay, hold on. All right, Matthew, thank you so much. Really great to have you join us as the founder of Mehen Stablecoin. I'm curious to know your guys' relationship with other projects in the ecosystem, and specifically how you will succeed in the face of the original stablecoin on Cardano Hosky token with its stable zero that was innovated in 2021.
I wish that Hosky would find a way to achieve that peg, but they seem to have a stabilization mechanism that doesn't quite work. I love the Cardano ecosystem. We're building this because I saw the need and I saw a skill that could fill that gap. So I know that when the JET token was announced on Cardano, they announced 40 different partnerships that they had within the ecosystem. If you look at that list, you'll see that about half of those names aren't around anymore. And I think that speaks to their, we want to be different than that. We want to build the ecosystem and not take from the ecosystem. So we're actively engaged with, the first partnerships were obviously Charlie and serverless. We've talked with a whole lot of NFT projects about supporting them and how we can get into the NFT, supporting the NFT space. We've talked with a whole lot of, we've talked to every DeFi platform that's out there, and if I haven't talked with you, please reach out to me, because we want USDM to be known by the Cardano community. We want it to be used throughout the ecosystem, and we want to support every single person that builds using USDM. So that's going to be ahead of time on our list.
Oh yeah, man. Thank you. Cheers.
Thank you, dudes.
Thank you.
Any other questions? I have another question for you, actually. I gave you a question. Oh, no, okay. Let's ask. Alex?
I'm not going to
Yeah.
We might address the survey, but I'm just curious. How is USDM going to address the KYC requirements to get over that hurdle?
Sure. The question, I don't know if the mic's on or not, but I heard it. So how is USDM going to address the KYC issue or kind of that hurdle? So if you're going to mint or burn USDM, if you're going to send us fiat, or if we're going to send you fiat, you have to KYC on our platform. And we have a partner called Plaid that is a bank integration and identity verification partner that has a very robust platform for fraud detection, has a very robust platform for sanctions compliance, and for identity verification. So they're an industry standard best practice company, and we're going to use them. You'll be able to test the platform sometime early November. We're hoping to have it ready for testing at the summit, but we have been working very hard to integrate that platform with ours and leverage that best-in-class technology. If you are trading USDM throughout the ecosystem, on Cardano, native assets are children of the protocol. They're not children of smart contracts. So because they're not made by smart contracts, like an ERC20 token is basically a smart contract with a list of addresses. And when you send a transaction on Ethereum, what you're doing is you're instructing the smart contract to move USDC from wallet A to wallet B. And they do that within their smart contract. And on Cardano, what you're doing is you're taking a UTXO that's controlled by you, that contains a native asset, and you're sending it to another person in a decentralized manner on the Cardano blockchain. And in Cardano, native assets are treated from the protocol the same way that the native base currency, ADA, is treated. And so what you do is, we can't control transfers between people. We can see them, and if we identify transactions that are suspicious, then we'll certainly block them at the boundary that we have, and go from fiat to crypto. But we can't control actions within the blockchain. We've worked with Cerberus to try to build a robust risk identification platform on Cardano, and we're going to use best practices on the token side that you see on Bitcoin or Lightning or any of the other UTXO style blockchains that don't have smart contract control over data assets. Thank you, Alex.
You have a question back there?
We went to a couple of different service providers. We ultimately ended up with Cerberus for token tracking. They're a project that I was familiar with from their inception, sort of we knew them. But more than that, they do have a very robust token tracking tool that will help us to identify the UTXOs that contain suspicious USDM. We hope, we're going to have to see what happens with the protocol design, and we hope that wallet makers, that DeFi applications, that others on the platform will observe these kind of gray lists of suspicious tokens. But if you the analog is always Bitcoin. So if you look at what happens with Bitcoin, these people that did these hackers that got caught in New York, the colorful couple, they ended up getting caught because the Bitcoin network was watching those tokens and seeing them not move from the wallet. And I think once they knew that the wallet was known, then a lot of people ended up being very suspicious of those transactions and not doing that. A lot of the intermediaries as well. So, we're hoping that that's what happens with Cardano, is that the public becomes aware these are bad actors, don't interact with them. Or, on the other side of it, that if you imagine that tomorrow you were to do some USDM-oriented theft, where you took USDM out of a protocol that maybe had a security vulnerability, and then you immediately turn around and send that to me to cash it out to dollars. In that case, we would end up locking that USDM and reporting you to the authorities and returning both the USDM and the fiat over to the authorities for your assets. And that's just good stewardship and being a good citizen, and making sure that criminals go punished, or at least that they're turned over to the proper authorities. So that's our stance, is we don't tolerate any illegal actions. It is a free world, and people will do what they're going to do. So we want to make sure that we've got the tools to identify it. And if the authorities come to us and they say, well, Gianna was sending USDM to fund Iranian nuclear program, we end up tagging that wallet, and Cerberus goes and tags it, and they find all of her little affiliates that ended up helping her, and we can snatch them all up. The one thing that law enforcement, the crazy thing, I don't know why the authorities keep watching, because it's the most transparent, most easy to identify tool for tracking illicit finance that you could ever design. So definitely, track them all around, and then find the times when the wallets touch the edge points, and that's what you get. But I think, back to your actual question though, our banks, Plaid, all the regulated counterparties, all the states, they expect us to have good processes and procedures in place. Because what happens ultimately is, Mehen is responsible for, if we cash out a terrorist, if we cash out a drug smuggler, arms trafficker, human trafficker, crime syndicate, then we are in trouble. We go to jail, no doubt. So we want to make sure we have good controls around that, and that we can use them and enforce them strongly.
Any other questions from the audience? Alright, I have another question for you, Matt. So you've been talking with a lot of different regulators. I want to know what difficult conversations have you had with them? How have you been able to navigate that? And if there's anybody starting their own fintech project, what advice would you have for just dealing with this whole regulation landscape?
Luckily, we haven't had bad interactions with regulators. I think that the worst interaction that we've had is really just basically saying, come in, talk to us, help us understand this. And you have to understand that not everybody feels like the SEC chair when it comes to crypto. And a lot of different states are very accommodating, and very open to working with fintechs that are properly organized and run. And so they're never your enemy. They're never trying to be evil. They've got jobs to do, and they need to make sure that they do. And we need to recognize that these people are underpaid and overworked, and they need to be shown the kind of respect that they deserve. So, don't ever try to treat a state regulator as like people at the DMV, people that they're in the most unpleasant situations they have to deal with and the public all the time. Like, as much as they can be like angry and cranky, they're generally like really nice people, and they're just put in a situation that just sucks. So even if like in the financial regulators are never like that, they deal with fintech startups, they deal with banks, they deal with professionals instead of the general public. So they have a much better view on the world, I think, than you. Somebody who, police officers see the drugs of humanity, right? And firefighters see death and destruction every day. And generally, if you talk to that kind of state employees, they have a negative outlook. We talk to somebody at the State House that's trying to regulate fintechs and fintech startups and banks. They generally are overworked and underpaid. They definitely want to make sure that they're doing the right thing. So always think of them as a partner. Always think of them as they understand the law a lot more than you do. And if they say, yeah, the law will require, if you do this, do that, you have to go and get these licenses and different process, that's great. So let's do that. And we're happy to do whatever they say we need to do in order to make sure that we're operating from the law, because that's, as much as we would love to be ungovernable and live our lives on crypto in these new revolutionary spaces, we still live our lives and walk around the streets and transact to buy food and clothes and things with fiat in a society that expects laws to be observed. So I think we need to work within that framework first, and then eventually get to the decentralized commercial institution. Eventually, that's step 2, 3, 4.
Thanks for those insights. Any last further questions before we let them go? All right, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Matt.